So Donald Trump,
is the president.
is our president of the United States.
Huge news.
So critical race theory, people may not be familiar with, but it is exemplified in books like White Fragility, How to Be an Anti-Racist, and it is, you can check out James Lindsay on Joe Rogan if you want an explanation of what it is. But it's essentially, it's kind of the animating force beyond the Black Lives Matter ideology. And I don't mean Black Lives Matter protests. I mean the ideology that set up Black Lives Matter, that said that we live in a system of systemic racism where whiteness is promulgated. And
just want to clarify. So we got Black Lives Matter, the sentiment, the movement, and the organization. You're saying critical race theory informs the organization or the sentiment?
The organization.
Okay. So,
the
sentiment, I think everyone agrees with. Movement is all the individuals
and then
protesting.
It trickles in there, yeah.
You're saying that the organization that is Black Lives Matter, that people donate to, that has the website Black Lives Matter, is informed by critical race theory.
Yes, and that doesn't see that as a problem at all.
No, thinks it's great.
James Lindsay talks about critical race theory, but essentially what Donald Trump did a couple of weeks ago was he said that if you teach critical race theory in diversity trainings in the federal or government, we can no longer do that. So we're not going to have any training about systemic racism. We're not going to have any training about white privilege. Like, those are just an example of some of the buzzwords that are popularized by critical race theory.
He said no federal money will fund these programs.
Well, that's what he said.
That's what he said 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. And then what he said yesterday, when that was like, oh, wow, that's a big executive order. I think it was yesterday. He said, anyone who contracts with the government needs to demonstrate that they do not have these programs being taught in their organization, which is insane. And I don't mean crazy like good, bad, but I mean wide span.
Huge. It means that if you're Boeing and you want to provide fighter jets to the U.S. government, which is probably a huge part of your revenue, that you can't have a program that talks about the inherent racism of being white or the systematic oppression of whatever.
Or how the police is a force that was started to capture and kill black people. Like you cannot have any sort of trainings which are typically classified under diversity training like that. And this extends, I don't know if people realize how much government money is spread around and how it's everywhere. I mean, I'm sure Google has contracts. Amazon certainly with AWS has it. Like the biggest companies, with possible exception of the consumer-facing ones like McDonald's, which still might like be servicing the troops, are affected by this.
And he's not saying that that you have to shut down if you have these training. What he's saying is that if you have this training in your company, we will remove the contract and give it to someone else.
Yeah.
So to the extent you want to keep it going, you are going to lose any government revenue that you have.
Yeah. So I actually think this has been done. If you guys care, I think there's a ton of issues with critical race theory. It's been discussed nonstop in other places. If you want us to talk about it, I don't know that I have anything novel to add to this discussion. But what I do think that I'm uncertain, even though I don't like a lot of the teachings in critical race theory, I don't know how I feel about the executive order.
So the first thought I had was how the election is shaping up. Because I feel like Biden has gone hard for the black vote. And I think Trump, in my opinion, he is a gamesmanship guy, which is to say, we don't know his actual opinion on a lot of things, I think, around election season. Historically, he was a Democrat. He's on record saying certain things about whatever issue. And then when he started to run, all of a sudden, for the first time ever, would share a new opinion. And so, in my opinion, seeing this was Trump looking at Black Lives Matter, waiting to see how it shaped up. Did America rally behind them? Did people start to resent it as it starts to spread to their area? And when I saw this, I went, all right, like Biden went for 13% of America, which is the black vote.
Yeah. I actually don't even know that that's the fair. I don't even know that he went for the black vote. He thought he was going for the black vote, but
I'm saying strategically.
Yes.
I don't think every single black person is going to vote for Joe Biden.
Donald Trump might do incredibly well with the black vote this election cycle, is what it's sort of shaping up to be.
Why is that?
I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn with some of the polls, but I don't know that Biden's bet was that Black Lives Matter was directly representative of the black voting bloc. And I don't know that that's shaped up to be the case.
Does it split by age? Does it split by wealth?
I'm sure it splits by wealth. I'm sure it splits by a lot of things. One of the things, and again, these are all very tentative. So compared to the other stuff on this podcast where I feel very safe in my philosophical grounding, take this with a grain of salt. But I did read that people that were in areas where there was rioting and protests, regardless of skin color, are less likely to vote Biden and more likely to vote Trump.
Well, sorry, that's what I was saying, though, is I think there's, same as last election, there's a very large silent group of Trump voters who will never go on record saying they're going to vote for Trump and then just show up at the polls, close the curtain, and vote for Trump. And I think with this executive order, he's going to capture more of them, which is say no one is going to come out and say, I love this executive order. Not no one, but a lot of people are going to see it, think that they don't like critical race theory, and say nothing to their neighbors, say nothing on social media. But come election day, I think they're going to vote for him. And I think similarly, in the more progressive community, there's a bit of a push for more socialism and more communist policies. And I think a big group that no one is really directly, overtly targeting is the Latin vote, which makes up a huge part of America. But a lot of people have come from South America and seen socialism and communism not go so well. And so I think that there's going to be a big silent voting block of Latinos who also vote for Trump. So when I saw this executive order...
Put this on your prediction spreadsheet.
When I saw this executive order, it was the first time that I went, we might have the exact same election results, which is everyone's talking about how Trump has terrible approval ratings, and then come election day, wins in a landslide.
Yeah, that would be... When I watched the 2016 election, I was like, oh, Donald Trump's force of personality is going to do it. This isn't a charisma analysis, but that is my sense too, is that
this is just
he's going to trail in the polls and then win the election.
Yeah. No, this isn't based on the fact that I think he said anything. I also do think it literally just takes one debate to, again, regardless of their politics, think that Trump is a better debater between the two of them. And so all they have to do is get in the room once or get on Skype once. And I think that's going to help Trump. Not because I think he's a good person, but because I think he will zing Joe Biden in ways that Biden cannot cleverly zing back.
Well, I'll try to live stream that. Maybe we can watch it. But
so yeah, and so I think that for all these reasons, I am starting to see the same patterns. And I could be wrong. I'm not a political predictor. This isn't what I do professionally, but it's just starting to remind me more and more of the last election, where it looked like it was extremely loud Trump haters saying there was no chance he was going to win, and then they were shocked when all these people that they weren't really engaging with silently voted for Trump.
Yeah, I agree. So let's see if we can live stream the thing. I don't know what the rules are.
The debate?
Yeah.
We
can chat about it while we do it, maybe.
But so that's what I thought when I saw that executive
order. I wanted
to
ask you, I think there's an even more interesting question about, okay, who wins? Okay, that's 4 years. It matters. But what do you think about the government saying you can or can't teach fill in the blank in your company if you want to receive money? How does that strike you?
I'm torn, because if it's not the government, you would say let it happen. Like, even if there's let's say there's a big company that wants to hire us for charisma recruiting, and they're called thirdreich.com. And they will give us $1 billion as long as we don't have any Jews, right? And so like your option is fire me or not work for them. They're allowed to, well, maybe not because the no Jews is discriminatory, but they could say something about a training. Like we can't donate to a certain nonprofit or something. Not that we're not allowed to, but they just won't give us money. They'll just go with someone else. I think that's allowed. So,
well, this is the problem, is that both sides, what you're not allowed to do, and this is the issue, is you're not allowed to discriminate based on the basis of race, gender, etc. So the whole argument comes down to, when Donald Trump's executive order said this is discriminatory based on race. This is what he called scapegoating, and somebody wrote it for him, I'm sure. This is scapegoating one particular race and blaming the ills of America on them. So this is discriminatory, and we already have statutes against this. This is done. But of course, the other side says it's discriminatory to say that you can't do this. So weirdly enough, we have this law that both sides are saying exactly protects them. Yeah. And that I don't know how to handle that, because in your case, what you were describing, you wouldn't be allowed to do it. You couldn't say no Jews, right? No private company can say, hey, come give us a training, but just make sure no Jews show up. That is illegal. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel. What it comes down to, unfortunately, is, like, let's imagine that the training that they were saying was, we are going to say that it's training to recognize that all lives are important. And I don't mean with regards to Black lives. I mean foreign lives, U.S. lives. And this is going to help you see that your neighbor in Mississippi is not actually more of a human or closer than your neighbor down in Ciudad Juarez or something, or in Argentina, Iraq. And you could, like, what if the government put the kibosh on that? What if there's a new social system that hasn't been tested that comes up that says we want to organize society like this and it's going to work, and but you can't teach that in any sort of organization. It makes me nervous because the whole reason that and this is the problem, the whole reason that I liked the executive order is because of the contents of it, but not because of the structure, where I like mandates from on high about what you can't say.
What if a company makes a training mandatory that says that foreign lives don't matter? Like, maybe the issue is that companies shouldn't be able to mandate training. Because what if Apple says that if you're going to work here, you have to go in for an hour every day?
But they do mandate training. I mean, you have to take like engineering training, right?
This is what I'm saying. So maybe the issue is letting politics get into companies. I'm not saying that's the case, but what if Amazon specifically was just saying they're going to have a training about how foreign lives don't matter? You think the government should step in, or you think every Amazon employee has to sit down for an hour a day and learn about how Middle Eastern lives are valueless?
Well, I think this is the problem with setting up these laws. You're like, there's not a clear line between what is politics and what is not politics. So of course you want to be able to train people. You're like, what? I'm not allowed to teach my people engineering? Well, guess what? Master slave is a term that is used in programming. And that's where this whole critical race theory finds its way in. It says, no, you're already political. And quite frankly, it's right. Everything is political. Everything has a worldview embedded within it that is often goes unstated and unchallenged. So yeah, I don't have an answer to this, but I did have the sense that, like, I don't know if this is a freedom of speech issue or if
he's not saying you can't do it. He's saying you can't. So like, let's say Amazon did have that training and you disagree. You think that lives in the Middle East are just as valuable as lives in the US. You would have to find a different job, right? But you could go do that.
Well, you can't, to be clear, like, you're not, there are things that a company, a private company cannot do. For instance, there's the wedding cake with the gay people. Like, you have to make that cake for them. You are not allowed to discriminate based on this, that, or the other thing. So this private company, the government has already said what you can and can't say to a degree within your organization. You do not have absolute freedom. And so I just don't know how that squares with all of this. And what I come down to is, like, yeah, I like them banning the things that I don't like, and I don't like them banning the things that I do like. And that's a really unprincipled position.
Well, that's where everyone is falling on this issue.
Yeah.
That's how everyone feels about this executive order.
Yes. And so what I try to imagine is, like, let's just pretend that this executive order was for something else, saying that the teaching of philosophy in your organization is anti-American in some way.
You're gonna dislike a lot of what the government does, though. Like, I'm
just trying to see if I was master of the world and I was Donald Trump, do I like this executive order or don't I? Even if I would prefer that people didn't teach critical race theory the way that it's being taught in these organizations, would I have issued the order? And I don't. I'm ambivalent. People hate this sometimes, but I don't really have the answer.
Yeah.
I was curious would you do it? You're president. Somebody puts this in front of your face. They say, look, these are federal funds. The public is funding this. The nation is funding things that subvert the idea of capitalism and democracy and all these kinds of things. Like, we got to stop spending money on it.
I don't know a lot about critical race theory, so I don't know about that issue. But if I thought it was something that was, like, evil and bad for the populace, isn't that kind of the president's job, is to be the dad of the country, which is to say, some of you don't want to go to war, some of you do. I think the best thing for our nation is to go to war. So guess what? We're going to war.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if 49% of you are against it. I'm the dad of the country. That's what I do.
Or even if 60% of you are against it.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like, if I'm the president and I do think something is evil, do I make an executive order to stop it? I do as much diligence as I can to determine if I'm correct in thinking it's evil. But then, I think that's why I was elected, right?
Yeah.
Is to lead the country for 4 years so that it's better than when I leave. And so if I thought that something was this insidious, anti-American, gonna destroy our country from within thing, isn't that what my job is?
Yep.
Is to stop it.
And what I have to accept, and I think you're right, is that you could be wrong. You know, you could get it wrong. I can just
do it to the best of my ability.
Yep.
But I think that's why I'm elected. The problem with the country is that it's super big and divided right now. So I think that anything that any president does is going to be hated by a big part of the population. That's the problem. But I think the president's job is basically, I'm supposed to leave the country in a better place than where I found it. I'm supposed to do right by the country as far as I feel like I can.
And make decisions, and this is, I guess, what it is, that are not implied by any sort of systemic structure that says, no, you can't, like, you've imposed certain rules on me. I can't, I'm not the Supreme Court. I'm not the legislative branch, but you've given me these powers, and I am supposed to
do what I think is
make
best.
decisions that are different from someone else given these sets of powers. Yeah, that's a fair point. That the very fact that there are three branches is intended to be the check on all of this. It's like, look, you gave me executive orders. This is what I'm going to do. Like, and they're going to be particular to my worldview, and I'm going to try my best, but it's going to be different from someone else's worldview. And history might look back on me and go,
yeah. And what you're hoping for, and this is why this is why we have elections. You're hoping that people elect an intelligent, moral person that makes decisions that we like, but that
are good for us, I guess. Forget that we like.
Yeah, sure. So no, I think that's the president's job.
Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.